Hi everyone, it's Ryan at Energy Hill. Welcome to another Modern Marketing. It's Friday. I hope everyone's had a great week. It's been a good week here, a long week here, but I'm glad it's the end of the week. And I always like to think of it that the weekend is boring in the sense that I want to keep working. There's things in production, there's things happening. However, it is a good time to just say, hey, let's pump the brakes, let's rest, let's re-energize, and let's go from there. So with that said, today we are switching gears. We've been talking a lot about apps and different tools that we use in-house. Today I'm going to switch gears and talk about leadership. It's still in the we're going to keep it kind of tight in the marketing and design and brand world, but I did want to talk about how leaders, they can kind of fit into one of four different models. Now, this topic is really, I'm going to say that this is relevant to 10 years ago. And you're like, why are you talking to me about 10 years ago? Because really it goes not just from 10 years ago, but really from about the 70s and 80s all the way up through 2000, early 2000s. In the coming weeks, I'm going to talk about modern leadership and how we should, in a sense, be adapting. We're going to talk about Patrick Lencioni and some of the content that really thought leaders are driving in our world. And we're also going to switch it culturally because that's also relevant now that everything really is a global economy and culture. That how are we engaging with partners, clients, customers, across the globe in different countries? How do they really approach business and leadership and evaluations and everything? So we are going to talk about something tactilely based on this talk on Wednesday, which is about performance evaluations. Everyone's like, ooh, that's gross. I feel we've really kind of figured out something pretty special about this, and it's really not just about professional development, which is the term we use, but it's really personal development plans and how those engage. So we are going to talk about that on Wednesday, so make sure to check it out. Make sure to follow us, make sure to hit the like buttons and all the things that need to happen to make sure you're notified. And if you do miss it, no worries. We put it up on video on demand afterward on both Instagram and Facebook and everywhere. But if you ever do have a question, feel free to reach out to us as well. So with that said, today we're talking about leadership, successful professional development plans for your organization, relational theory. So I want to talk, here's the four elements and models that really leaders align into. And again, this is based on really the 70s, but I think you can probably even go further back into, generals back in, potentially even further back into dark age time. But really we're going to talk about really from the 60s, 70s, all the way up to really the early 2000s as far as how these four models were prevalent and they were active. And some of them still are. The thing is they've just kind of tweaked and evolved into what they are going forward. And that's a talk for a later day, but I did want to talk on these four today. First of all, transactional leadership. We're going to talk about that one. Really, this model is about you give me something in return for something. So I will pay you this as long as you do this. I will not pay you this based on, this. And that's I'm going to say that was done a lot in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And really, it doesn't really work today, not just with specialists and skill-based employees, but even non-skill-based employees. It's very difficult. However, there's still a place for it. It's one of those things that, as an organization, is that effective going forward? And that's something that, I would say there's more, much more cohesive and adaptable models that have really take prevalence in the last decade and a half. But again, really this is, if I do this, you will give me that. That's the whole model for this. This model rewards and punishes based on performance in the form of transactional benefit. It's not really of today, but it's still done. It's still done in a lot of cases. Transformational leadership, really these are the visionaries. These are leaders that are able to inspire through words and action and not rewards and punishments. So they switch it to, hey, I'm going to affirm you. I'm going to really make it where you are accepted based on your views, beliefs, what have you. And also then monetary will align with that, or life, family, work balance will align. So those things will align. So really this transformational leadership, which really this term is kind of dying. I haven't heard it much in the last decade, but it was huge back in the 90s where everyone transformational. What type of transformational leader are you? I really haven't heard it in the last decade. So these leaders give individual care or set that expectation based on subordinates' needs. So it's really more custom-based, which is what I love. It is based on individuals. That's an element that, again, when I'm talking about this, you're going to know who you are if you're a leader in an organization, or if you're striving to be a leader, or if you're striving to start your own business. You're going to kind of know some of your DNA that aligns with this, but I want to show you that there's value in all these, even the transactional. If you are running, let's say, a manufacturing place, and you say, hey, guys, we can make this competitive and still be effective and good and have a good culture and a company that align with that and a brand and vision that align with it. However, it's more about transaction. We need to crank out 10,000 units in 3 hours, and that's our goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. So there's good in all of them. It's just what makes sense for you and your organization. The next one is charismatic. It's very similar to transformational. They're similar in the sense that they use their innate abilities to build those relationships. They're typically high in confidence. These leaders only need to avoid one thing only, and that's fame. I think that the charismatic leader can become, and even just in a small way, famous. All of a sudden they're like, oh, they don't even talk with their key players and key teams. So that's where they can kind of run into this element. So I think there's that balance there with all of these models, but definitely this one runs into that. And unfortunately, with fame can come distraction from their organization or from their company and their brand that they just don't care anymore. Okay, then there's level 5 leadership. Again, 2005, so just wanted to date it with what it is. I do like this author, but he talked about level 5 leaders, a study in duality. It's both modest and willful, shy and fearless. These are known as a quiet leader. There's someone that, it's not me. I'm saying right now I'm not. I'm very loud and obnoxious at times. But the whole idea is that they're someone who they lead, but yet they're quiet. They're humble. They have all these traits that are fantastic that I honestly strive for. But they have calmness and inner peace that allow for a level 5 leader to remain centered in the worst of circumstances. That's what I love most, is that they're able to realize their faults, realize their strengths, but they're still able to remain even keel in whatever the scenario is. I do want to show one example of that I think Collins talks about in his book, and that is Gillette. So it's actually Coleman Mockler. He was a CEO of Gillette from really, I think it was mid-70s all the way to early 90s. Oh, I have it there. Yeah, 75 to 91. And he's known as humble, intense, passionate leader that he hired talent and vision carriers. He really went through kind of a grind from the 70s, 80s, and 90s in a sense. They were trying to take over. They were trying to replace him because he was so, I'm going to say he was not even humble. He was almost timid. He was definitely an introvert. Yet here's the thing. When those takeovers happened, he was humble, but yet he was willing to know what needed to be said and get the job done in a sense that he was still boldness when it was needed. And that's something that I want to encourage you that, everyone says, oh, I can't be a leader because I'm not charismatic. I don't have that personality. I don't have those skills. You know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to say that Coleman, he was one of the best leaders of our time in the retail world, and he really set a trend for the way leaders should engage and work with their team and employees. So I'm going to say that it's not always bad to be introverted or to be, that I'm not that. However, I think that that's a weakness of mine, that I'm sometimes it's good to have that humility and have that quietness that is that you still have the strength when it's needed. Okay, so that's my talk on leadership. We can go way further, and I'm going to put up some blog content that can really help you dig in, and amazing resources ranging from, again, as I mentioned earlier, Patrick Lencioni, and there's so many great authors out there on leadership. We have one that I want to shout out right now, Carson. He's fantastic. What is Carson's last name? Sublett. I love you, Carson. But so there's a lot of really good authors out there that you should definitely check out. We're going to put a blog post together that will align with this presentation. Going forward, I do want to talk about, how does this relate to a different country? And we're going to talk about that in the coming weeks. It might be a couple weeks, but Keiretsu is something about how do grouping of enterprises work. And we're going to talk about that and leadership and how that all plays together. On Wednesday, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a PDP as far as how you actually take your leadership, whatever model you are, or however way you work, and how do you actually do a performance evaluation. I hate that term. I'm just saying it because it resonates with most people. I honestly am changing it from professional development plan to personal development plan because there's key elements that come into play here, ranging from this, but also to stuff like work-life balance. It's such a huge thing and passion of mine that you need to have that. So we're gonna go through on Wednesday about step by step, and here's how you can do it successfully and have some fun as well. If you have questions, I put up really the two of us in our organization, both myself and Orlando. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. Again, energyhill.com/Ryan or Orlando. We are running, I just want to promote something that we are doing. We are running a free audit website and digital audit of anything and everything that you're working on. And I'm going to say it's free in a sense. We only ask, we need your contact information so we can send you the audit. Fill it out and really use it with your own internal team. Or if you don't have an internal team, if you have someone in your organization that they own it, give it to them to help them. It's kind of like a checklist they can use. And if you do want to say, hey, we need additional help, Matt will be reaching out to you as far as how we can help you more if you want. Okay, last but not least, actually that's it. So I usually put my slide of my information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via Energy Hill. Make sure to follow and like and have a great weekend. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.